Okay, well, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Jeremy Sandifer. I'm the STEM project coordinator at Kentucky State University in Frankfort, Kentucky. KSU is an HBCU, and I'm representing the College of Ag today. We're educators and researchers, and we do a lot of the traditional GIS and remote sensing type work. Geospatial data is really all around you, whether you know it or not. Everywhere essentially in the country or the world is described in great detail with data that's just out there sitting. Data of all kinds, any kind that has some physical attribute about it, an address or a zip code or anything like that. We can use all this data to describe different places in the earth. Slightly connected to that is this science called remote sensing. And this is where you can use properties of light and how physical objects interact with light to know stuff about what that object may be. And there's a long, rich history of doing this. In fact, ever since the 60s, Earth has been surrounded by satellites for all different kinds of satellites, looking at all different kinds of things. But what they all have in common is they're just imaging the Earth to know how well the vegetation's doing, what the climate's doing, and that kind of stuff. And in fact, for any place, certainly in Kentucky, mostly for the United States, for any given land area, you can know a lot about it. So in this particular example, we do a lot of farm stuff. I'm not a farmer, but I work with a lot of farmers. And we're in Shelby County a lot, and the first thing when I go to a farm, I need to know about it, just kind of what the outlay of the land is and what historically has taken place at that land. So for every place, these are the distribution of the vegetation. And you can get a good outline of the terrain of the earth, so things regarding drainage and stuff growing up out of the ground. And you can get kind of this heartbeat looking thing. This is a measure of vegetation activity over the last 20 years for this particular property. So you can look and see that about 12 years ago, there was a massive land cover change here. And this is where they converted a former grass area to more of an agricultural type thing. And you could see where that change happened. And then each year you can measure the peak vegetation productiveness for that farm. And this can be translated directly into things like yield or health. So that's kind of the science as it exists. And it's awesome. And for the most part, it's free. Your tax dollars are paying for this, though right around the corner, this is about to change. The issue with it, though, is that it's only available, say, for one time a year. So for any given place, the Google vehicle is only going to go by your place one time. Or even if it's a satellite that's looking all the time, I may only see your house every 2 weeks. And probably every 2 weeks it's going to be cloudy. So most of the data that's out there, you really can't even use it because you would not believe how cloudy it is. I mean, there's never a clear day, almost never, not when you need it. Which brings us to the drones. So with the drones, as my man earlier described it, it's just a flying camera that can get places where you can't get with your phone. But different sensors can see different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum. So, I mean, think of yourself as a drone. How is it that you know the world around you? You got your eyes, and your eyes look out, and they're essentially just measuring light that's being reflected from these different surfaces. Your brain is stitching all this together. You're aware that you're in a place and there's people and stuff around. Well, with a plant, we can know other things about a plant based on the way that light reflects off of it. So a healthy plant is going to reflect light differently than a not healthy plant. Or a healthy plant, one that's nice and moist versus another one that's not quite as moist, these differences show up like night and day. So if you know your prop and you know what you're looking at, how light reflects off surfaces tells you a lot about that particular surface. So this is an example from Bernheim Research Forest, south of Louisville. They're doing all kind of incredible stuff out there, but in this particular area, what they wanted to do, and you see these little beds here, and their pretty little flower thing, there's about 70 different crops in there, and what they're trying to do is they need a way that's non-destructive and not very labor-intensive to monitor how these crops are doing over time. Here on the right, there's a very much like a Google Earth type image, regular RGB imagery. But then this image on the left that's overlaid is a near-infrared only type image. So near-infrared, your eye can't see it. It's a little redder than red, so your eye's not sensitive to it. But it happens to be for parts internally of the plant and the way the organs and all are bound up inside of a plant. That happens to be highly sensitive to different bands of near-infrared light. An X-ray is not a real good analogy, but near-infrared can peer through and be reflected off of stuff that's not evident on the surface, right? This is very common if you think about how they would look for skin cancer or that kind of stuff. We do exactly the same thing, but looking at healthy versus not healthy, pest, rust, some kind of, any kind of ailment. Again, I don't come from a farming background, but I'm learning more about farming and detecting things that don't belong on crops. So when you know all this information, and you have an expert there who's an expert of the stuff that you're looking at, the farmer, you can classify and label all this stuff. And this is kind of where we start getting into what we call machine learning. So this is all very precisely measured and remembered in the computer, and you can do a lot with this stuff. This is just a zoomed in part of the petal, because what I want to illustrate is in each of these beds, there's different distributions of different crops. So all we're looking here is the light. Now concrete always looks like concrete under near-infrared light. So this is this blue type situation you're seeing. Just to zoom back out and let you see what it looks like. So when you zoom in, the individual crops on the different beds, you see that they're different shades and different intensities of reflected near-infrared energy. What we were able to do is use these differences, these variations in reflectivity, and A, identify the crop that's there, and then B, have some idea of how well it's doing in this crop. So it's really easy to know if it's doing better or worse than average. Good. So from space, if my camera was good enough, I could be looking at all of you guys' farms and counting your carrots, right? Or measuring your hay, or knowing how not well your pumpkins were doing, or something like that. If I know what a pumpkin looks like under near-infrared light, and if I have equipment that can see. And then there's basic photogrammetry, where you're able to just derive 3D shapes based on the stereo nature of the images. Multiple pictures that see one place from multiple perspectives. So you're able to just do simple trig, but lots of it, and derive complete 3D models. So these things I've described in the last couple of minutes, this is what we do at KSU. We do this on an outreach component. I'm somewhere between research and extension. So we go out and help the community if they want this kind of help. Otherwise, I'm just doing what I'm doing here today. We're just outreaching, introducing you to technology. But before I get off of here, I just want to show you a couple specific examples. Do I have any farmers in here? Anybody grow up on a farm? Anybody know farm? Anybody have a garden or anything like that? Okay, right on. So I'll go through these pretty quick, but it'll at least illustrate to show you where it's at right now. And this is all free, and this is elementary level type stuff. When you jump into this stuff, that hole is so deep, and there's a merging of all these distinct sciences that are distinct in your head. When you get way down in the hole, they're all together. They're all the same thing. So this is a pawpaw stem. Pawpaw is a natural fruit. We take pawpaws real seriously where I'm at. Some of the other teams, they actually develop new genetic varieties of this type of fruit. But this is just an example drone images that just show the type of products that it grows out. It's just an RGB, like a Google Earth type imagery. And this is some more of a faked vegetation index of how well it is. And at this point, all of the trees were doing pretty bad, but it was pretty early in the season. The little more practical or better use of this, we at Kentucky State University, we also are spearheading a lot of the industrial hemp development. So right now there's about 3,000 acres this season that are being planted with industrial hemp, and each year that number is going to get much larger each year. But again, they needed a way, because they're planting 3,000 acres. So if you have 3,000 acres, you need to know almost to the stock how well this stuff is growing over time, because you have to interseed If it's not growing quick enough, early enough, you need to give it something. Maybe it needs some water. Maybe it needs some fertilizer, some nitrogen, anything. You don't know, but you got to monitor this stuff. So 2 different dates. They wanted to know how quickly the hemp was growing. So what was the distribution of the growth? And using the drones and regular photogrammetry, we were able to develop these essentially elevation maps from each time step. And if you subtract time 1 from time 2, the difference is what the growth was between your visits. And this is essentially a digital representation of what that is. So this is more of a volumetric representation of that growth from time 1 to time 2. And this could be grass, this could be bushes of any kind. You could actually be looking at fruit in the tree. It's just a lot of work, right? You can see tiny stuff, but you got to work harder to see smaller stuff. So what you can see is, like in the top right, the blues didn't grow a lot and the reds grew more. So already you see, well, I clearly see red rows versus blue rows. Something drastically must have been different there. And of course it was, because they did a different weeding or whatever. But the net effect at the end of the day was that the plant actually grew smaller. So if you're out there managing your hemp, thinking you're doing good, you're actually hurting it, as it turns out. Just another example of a Metro Parks maintenance facility, basically a census of leftover materials at all the park properties that they had. So they sent just a team of a single person out with a drone, just like you saw earlier, mapped out all their places, and then was able to do some feature extraction stuff here and literally count how many old spare tires they had, how many errant pieces of lumber, piles of lumber, and that kind of stuff. So asset management's real big here. 3D representation of that same area. If you wanted, you could then 3D print this. So any place, like imagine you go out and do a factory and you make a nice 3D model of it. You got some investors in France or something. Well, you can send them digital representation of the place so they don't have to send their team over. Or you could do something in an outreach and 3D print it out or something. Any machine learning people in here? Computer science people? Okay, so we do a lot of that too. But you need lots of data to take advantage of this. And with the drones, we try to adopt a site, and I try to go out there as often as possible. So there's a couple of these industrial hemp sites, and we're out there once a week trying to measure. And certainly by the end of this season, we'll have some cool data to show that is amendable to this kind of analysis. That's all I have. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.